If we're going to assess Trump's transits for the next 3 months, in this graphic I'm showing a little more than 3 months for illustration purposes. And you see all this yellow, which in reality should be red in terms of the difficulty. However, I've illustrated it as yellow to show some contrast a bit later. The point being that the traveling Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, they tend to be trigger planets for the most part, although there are planets like Mars that can, especially when in a station, like it is here in the middle of January, and in the lead up and in the wind down, can be quite threatening because these degrees, you see it here, when it's back at the 8th degree, it's going to be in semi-square to his Saturn-Venus conjunction, which is quite threatening, irritating, problematic in that region. But for the most part, what you see in this part of the graphic are trigger planets which require bigger transits to tune into and then set off, basically initiate. And that's usually what happens from Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and Eris. Now for this video, the one I'm going to focus on is Saturn, because Saturn, you can see here already, is in the 21 degree range of Aquarius, and Saturn is moving forward from those degrees. And to understand what it is doing now, we turn to this graphic where I'm showing the red lines signify squares and oppositions. If you put planets in the corners, they either oppose each other or they're at 90 degrees, which is called a square. The blue lines show you half a square or a square and a half, which are called semi-square and sesqui-square or sesqui-quadrate. So based on that, we go back here and we see that Saturn, if we now draw it in its current transit, we would draw a red line right through here all the way into the 25, 26 degree range, because what it's doing is, in this direction, the first planet that it finds is this Neptune through a sesqui square, 135, then it moves up a little bit and it finds Eris in a semi-square, 45 degrees, and then it moves a little bit further and it finds Mercury through a 135. So the whole time it is definitely in aggravating mode, and therefore dangerous and liable to set something off that could be problematic. And then from there, of course, you tune into the fact that since the Eris is in the house of legalities, Saturn itself going through Aquarius points to that as well, and Mercury happens to be in the 12th, which is a place of criminality, and you start to get the picture. Potential time to get indicted. But then it gets worse, because what happens is when we get into mid-month, now this line, you could even extend it and say that a little earlier and going through right all the way down into early Pisces like that, you get even stronger red energy, stronger challenge, because by that point what happens is the Saturn has now made its way all the way to first 26, almost 27 degrees. Therefore it'll oppose Mars, and Mars is the ruler of the 9th, and that really signals trouble. And then when you go a little further, it lands right on the angle at 29 degrees, which is essentially a big blast of Saturn. So therefore, from Saturn alone, and in conjunction with all these trigger planets, you know that middle of January to the middle of March is extremely threatening in terms of something happening. For example, an indictment, a charge, something that really elevates the situation to a new level. Or, based even on this, it could happen sooner. And certainly, even if it doesn't happen sooner, I can tell you for a fact that this man is not enjoying the situation one bit, because the pressure on this chart is relentless, and this is only Saturn. And when you say only Saturn, you realize how big a problem you have, because what it means is the other planets that I'll be covering pile on and make things even worse.